Recording is resumed, and
Okay.
just give us a date and time.
Okay, so call the meeting to order. And we got all situated here. Do we have any minutes from July 9th? Were you able to get those done, Doug?
No.
Okay. Will you be able to get them done? Yes? Okay. Thank you. All right, so we will, next up on the agenda, this came about, create an ordinance for government entities to be able to post signs restricting parking in the public right-of-way adjacent to their building. This came about because the city has that, and we have no ordinance in place allowing for that, saying that we can do that, that we can actually reserve parking for people to do city business. And the county, at their county admin building, would like to do something similar.
And it has been put in place.
And it has been put in place, so.
And surprise, surprise, I then got a call from the neighboring business saying, I want to put a sign out on the sidewalk that says 30-minute parking in front of our business.
And what it boils down to is the fact that every citizen has a right to access their government, whether it's the city or the county. And this, so that would be one of the whereases, would be to, you know, especially if you need to go in and you want to talk to your county commissioner, you want to talk to the mayor, being able to limit that to, does there say county business only or just 30-minute parking?
Theirs just says 30-minute parking, but do you have a copy of the resolution or the text at all that we have done? So it's not, let me rephrase it. Does your committee have a copy of the text?
No, they don't.
Let me see if I can print off
Okay.
copies of that for discussion.
This is the proposed ordinance?
The proposed ordinance that we would, we would write, or, so basically it, boils down to the fact that obviously we don't want every business in town to, to do this, so, but.
You create a threshold?
You're right, exactly. But people do have public, you know, city business, county business, that they need to be able to access those buildings. So I guess it's.
So just government entities, not?
Right, it says, what it says here is parking ordinance, whereas by state law, everybody needs to be able to access their government services, and whereas for some people, walking large distances is not available, whereas signs have been placed previously, however, the action was not previously been formalized and is therefore not enforceable. Therefore, any government building providing a public service may request to have a sign limiting parking to government business during the operating hours, and the city will install a sign for them. And it should be installed in such a way as to not interfere with winter maintenance. Clearly, this needs better wording. I just captured the thoughts that we had talked about, that the mayor and I talked about. Could also include painting a yellow curb. Basically, you know, we're basing it on what's in front of the city. So we could also allow them to dictate the wording. You know, do you just want it to say 30 minutes only, or do you want it to say government business only, you know? Well, so.
There's no fees or penalties or anything on here, so there's no
Right.
teeth, or Jody had talked about, they can be towed, they
Yeah,
can be.
they could add if they wanted, violators will be towed at owner's expense, you know. But basically, I mean, locals kind of know not to just park in front of the county admin building for a long time, you know, because people pull up, they go in and they stay there.
Except for that they have had people parking
They
there
have.
for 8 hours, which is
Yeah.
where they came and asked for the sign.
Is this is for the county building, and it would be both sides of that,
I think they just have it
Ninth, or?
They just have it in one spot. And basically, they had asked for it, and their logic was, you have one. As I researched, we do have one. It's not enforceable, so it's an informational sign only, which may be fine with council's wishes, but But as I raised it with Jody as the member of the admin committee who I talked to, I was kind of like, what is the difference? Why is it okay in front of government offices and not in front of private businesses? And he says, well, duh, everybody has to be able to get to their government offices, and not everybody has to get to Junction 7, for instance. And so that's, she then proceeded to say stuff, and I was
I know.
typing with my thumbs.
Basically, I mean,
I was her
it's-
note taker.
It's a constitutional right to be able to interact with your government, you know, official, to be able to go in there and talk to people but everybody has to pay property taxes, everybody has to pay for their car registration, you know, driver services, it's,
The biggest challenge in that particular area is that side of the building on Oaks is pretty much used by government employees for parking
right.
while they're working
I-
for government business. But
I,
if they don't park there, then employees from other businesses
We'll park
park
there.
there all day.
and my understanding is most of the county now parks at their facility, kitty corner at the street.
I think there
So-
was a move, you can see that a lot of that has been moved. But then other employees
Mhm.
from, you know, business on Main Street then
Park.
converge,
They do,
so.
they do.
Then you also have another, which would be interesting, you have another government entity on Broadway across from your business.
Yeah, the courthouse.
That could potentially request a portion of that side street, which is normally used for their employees.
And I think that's part of where the idea of
State office.
government agencies could request it, and then city could grant
And
it.
as a side note, there was an ordinance that a private business could request parking on public right of way for their business, and Regis would be an example of that.
Right,
So
yeah,
it already exists.
it does already exist.
At one time, there was signs for, on the side street next to the courthouse, there was signs there for the county. to
yeah,
park
I remember that,
To
yeah.
park their,
What happened to those signs?
their cars there.
Do you remember if it was temporary or permanent? Because the county's was always temporary.
Yeah, no, it was in the concrete. I don't remember what happened, if they took it down, but there was at one point, there was a sign there for the county, the guys could park there.
Yeah, like
The police cars.
police cars, county.
County cars.
I remember that, because that was a while ago when.
The one I remember on Regis was
Okay.
back during the whole angled parking debacle. I wasn't,
It's been in place for a long time,
Mhm.
but there was an ordinance, I don't know if it's still there,
It is,
that
I
allowed
think.
for
I saw it.
a private business to request customer parking in front of their facility. And Regis was the example of that, because they were located next to the school.
Yeah, I don't think it's able to happen on Broadway. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure.
don't know if that's because of that being a state highway.
Yeah, I don't know.
They can.
Well, I don't even know if
we
we
have
wanna go there.
regulations that say 4 hours max or something,
I
and
know, we need to put those back up on the side streets, so people know that. Because that, again, isn't enforceable. It's 4-hour parking from Broadway to the alley.
Mhm.
And it used to be 2-hour, and the businesses were like, please let them at least park for 4, because 2 hours they can barely go eat lunch, and they're not gonna go shopping afterwards, but
The biggest challenge is employee parking,
it is,
and that's always been the challenge. We
Yeah.
try to keep the street open around the grocery store
Yeah.
for people with trailers and that during the summer,
Yeah,
but the employees from other businesses around us
park there.
use it, so we gave up on that.
and didn't your employees do the street parking because you told them not to park inside, that was customer parking?
Yes.
Yeah, that
And
was
we-
kind of my
We
understanding.
had them park on Dillard and the street in front of the store, but not on Oaks. But we lost that battle to other businesses, so we just tell them not to park in the parking lot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with allowing it for a government agency, allowing that ability. I don't know if we need to find that other ordinance, maybe we don't need to write a new ordinance, maybe we just change that one. If we find that other ordinance to specifically state that a government agency would, you know, if it's already out there, that's our,
Sounds like the other one is maybe private business, but
yeah. I can do some searching, I guess, for it, and see. Did you find anything?
Angled parking is 0923,
Yeah. Well, one of those didn't go through.
parking ordinance 923, 900.
Move forward with Westwood's version of ordinance 923.
Yeah, you should know this.
I know.
I think what I'm hearing is this well predates that.
I know. Unless that changed it when you guys did the,
All the parking did is say it shall be allowed, because from a city perspective, when we called the insurance company, if the city got sued, they said, we will cover anything that is a legal activity. And so if angled parking was not legal and we weren't, then the question became, were we adequately enforcing it? Then the city wouldn't be covered. There would be a discussion there. And so by making it legal, suddenly we were covered. And so it was an insurance-based initiative.
well, I can, do some research, try to find the other ordinance, and if you guys are, and I'll send it out to everyone when I do find it, I guess, and, I just.
Did anybody else have thoughts on the other one as outlined for government entities? I didn't hear a straw poll that said people liked the idea, didn't like the idea.
I'm fine with it.
Pardon?
I said I'm fine with it.
I like the idea because, I mean, I always know when I need to go drop my water bill off from my resort tax, I can usually pull in here and run in and drop it off. I'm not gonna have to park 3 blocks away, you know, it
I guess the question would be how much, looking at the courthouse
Mhm.
and its location,
Right,
as well as the other agency across the street. I'm not sure what the official title of that is. They're in the basement there.
oh, okay,
How much space can they use? Because if they take up
all
a
of Broadway,
significant number
yeah.
of parking spaces on Broadway, that has a negative impact on.
Yeah, and I would think that, I would think the city could dictate, I mean, we could put it in there where the city could dictate where they could do that at. 'Cause the side street there, yes, they used to have it blocked off for reserved parking for, I think it actually said reserved parking for law enforcement, didn't it?
I think so.
Next to the
Yeah.
courthouse.
Yeah, next to the courthouse or something like that, but, I mean, they all park, when it's court day, it's out in front of my store and across the street and down the block, and depending how busy court is, so. I don't think they have necessarily the problems that the county admin building does.
So the concern is quick in and outs versus extended.
Right.
The lawyer representing their client for court, parking there all day versus
Right.
having the space available for someone that needs to.
Drop off their jury summons.
Right.
Yeah,
So I think that's the time frame,
yeah, maybe it's
keeping the time frame short, because
30
what
minute
I'm hearing is
parking.
it's for short-term business
Absolutely.
interactions.
I
Maybe license plates, whatever it might be.
wanna go in
That's
and
something
meet
you're
with your
there
county
for hours.
commissioner and chew them out for 5 minutes, or however long they'll stand there and let you do it.
And the reality is, I think if it goes a little bit long, officer's discretion, they're not gonna do something with it. You had talked about language of maybe towed or is
Yeah.
it a fine or?
As soon as you put up their violators may be towed at owner's expense, then people seem to pay a little better attention
Sure.
to it. That it would be up, you know, the county could call it in and say, hey, that vehicle's been there for 2 hours and we don't know whose it is, it needs to go. You know, they would have that recourse then.
And that's why I think you guys should probably propose some consistency in signage, because I know our sign is different than what the county's has, which is different from the.
Yeah, and I would be, I like the idea of the time limit, you know, and maybe the city does something similar, you know, 30-minute parking.
Are they planning on doing one in front of the services building? The old clinic?
They haven't asked for it yet, so I don't know if you were in here. The question was, rather than it being something that we triggered and initiated, my goal was to have a template that staff could follow. If a government entity comes in and say, we need it, staff could say yes and make it so. But council's the one who gives us who ultimately makes that decision and says, yes, execute on this.
Right.
So it says in code that reserved space, the city council may, upon written application, therefore, and upon payment of the fee herein provided, designate a reserved space on the street of the city for motor vehicles as follows. And then it kind of lists it out. Occupant of premises, public buildings, handicapped, and so forth. That's 614.
6-1-4?
Yep.
So review that one before we proceed any further. Thank you for chasing that down.
Okay. Yeah, and it's already in our parking ordinance, that vehicles can be towed. It's just, you know, you could put it on the sign so people know. So, if you can tow it and impound it.
Yeah, because
So
the
that's already
objective is compliance, not making money for the people who own towing companies.
Right. So,
Thank you.
okay. So we good?
So how do we want to move forward on this? Who wants to? If it doesn't need to happen right away, like as in this summer, because it's chaos, I'm happy to take it on, but if it needs to happen soon, I can't do it.
I don't know that there's a timely thing, so I will tell you from what I did is when the county requested it, I contacted Mike and said, make it so. When I got the follow-up question from a neighboring business, that's when I went, ooh, there needs to be some clearer lines of when and when not being aware of this one, so maybe that one does allow. And if it comes down to that it's council's discretion,
Yep.
that's fine, that's repeatable, it can be a request. My only concern there is that's in that quasi judicial neighborhood. Whenever council is doing anything legislative, you are covered if somebody sues you. Anytime it's quasi judicial, it gets muddy and murky. So you gave it to business X, but not business Y, that's creating liability.
Honestly, I don't think that, I'm okay with, like I say, a government agency being able to do that, but I would very much have a problem with all of a sudden every business in town asking for parking in front of their spot being reserved just for their customers.
And so
Because
that's,
that's not okay, you know, I mean, that's not, parking's a premium in this town, so we have to be very careful. about doing
And that would be, in my mind, an acceptable defense on a quasi judicial decision. This is the rules of application that are always there, but if that's the case, why not do it legislatively and just tell staff do it?
Yeah, that's why I would rather have it legislatively passed than, I always have a problem with council, you know, just,
Quasi judicial.
yeah. And then it depends on who's up there, on whether or not business A gets it or business B gets it. And I like having it, an ordinance with public hearings, and here it is, this is what we have, this is what we follow. And if the next council wants to change it, they can change it, but, I don't know, what do you think, Chris? Like, Doug, do you have any
Can of worms.
idea?
No,
Okay,
I think you guys have covered it.
okay. So I would like to, personally, I'd like to go ahead and it doesn't have to happen right away. We're gonna have the budget and everything, and then we've got the business registration thing. We do this fall, and, really just tackle that ordinance and the 6-1-4, or maybe we, put some firm guidelines in place, on how that works. Everybody's okay with that?
Yeah, I'm happy to,
Okay.
we're gonna,
And I'll
and with your help.
yes, as much as possible. And, okay,
On my to-do list.
pull up my agenda again.
Oh, I just had it.
No,
Here.
thank you. Okay, no, I had it here too. Okay, so, the budget, go ahead.
Is there a possibility we can hit the business licenses first, as you've got
Sure.
people in the
Yes,
audience that are here to
absolutely.
talk about that,
If everyone's okay with that?
and staff?
Okay, so, business registration, we've come up with an issue at our last meeting that we discussed a little bit, and that's, the definition basically of prepared food. Renee, do you wanna talk a little bit about that and how we?
Yeah, so, of course, when we do business registration, it kind of ties into resort tax. And so, for us, prepared food is food intended for immediate consumption, which also means prepackaged food. So, what we're finding is that, prepared foods, in just that simple term, prepared foods, is arbitrary to some businesses, who are selling only prepackaged foods. And so we just need to more clearly define what the council's intent is behind prepared foods. Do we want all businesses who sell prepared foods, like cooked on site, or do we want to include prepackaged items as well?
And what we had talked about a little bit, because I was kind of thinking maybe we go about it like, the definition of a convenience store, where, you know, the Rocky Mountain Market is basically a convenience store on Broadway. And then we also have, you know, Sylvan Peak that sells convenient items to take with you when you go camping. Do we want to approach it that way? But then Danae was like, well, why don't we just approach it more as like the definition of prepared food? Most of the convenience stores, which we have under our $250 one, prepare food on site, you know, just like a restaurant. They have a little deli, they have, you know, they make salads, whatever. But then, we have some places where they buy fresh prepared food from like Samurai Sue, so that would still, you know, that should still, so maybe we change the definition of prepared food to fresh prepared food on site or off.
On that topic, I'm gonna add in that, like, bake sales, so that's why Kathy's here.
Okay,
So, St. Agnes Bake Sale, are also getting lumped into the 250 category, because their items are,
I didn't know they had a business registration.
so as a bake sale, even if you're a nonprofit, if you're conducting business,
When it's a fundraiser? So like the Finnish ladies, when they have their bake sale in town, do they have to get a business registration? The Finnish ladies?
Didn't we just talk about this at the resort tax?
I know, because the whole point, I know.
Yeah, I don't think that's the
Go
intent.
ahead, Dave.
My question, and I throw this out as a clarification, is that there was supposed to be a clear correlation between the registration fee and the effort it takes to maintain
Mhm.
an issue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
There is.
So to me, and I know like our 100 says whether you're collecting resort tax or not collecting resort tax and blah, blah, blah. To me, when I look at it, I have a question as if there's a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3, to me, it should associate more to how much effort is required by staff than which widget they're selling. In other words, if it's a business that doesn't collect resort tax maybe, or something, I can see where staff level is less on that. If it's a business that does, and so like if it's a fundraiser, do they collect, do Finnish Ladies or
The bake
St.
sale?
Agnes, if they're doing a fundraiser, do
They
they
don't-
have to collect resort
No.
tax? I thought I understood from the resort tax discussion that fundraisers are exempt. That was part of it.
Mhm.
Depends on the, like, it's a fundraiser, and it specifically states in there that it's the sales of tickets for an event for a nonprofit.
Yeah, we talked about revising that in the resort tax committee, when we go back through and
That's not the
Yeah,
review it.
yeah,
But that's
because
not
we,
the way
yeah.
it is.
yeah, right
Right,
now we saw
right.
that it does say sale of tickets for events, so like Beartooth
Mhm.
Hospital sort of thing. But the discussion there was, we've never charged
So then,
fundraisers, because like Girl Scout cookies, well, administratively, past mayors have said, I waive that because children can't enter into contracts. But
So,
little
like-
church ladies can't enter you know.
For example, like, is it a fundraiser, or is it the ladies making the profit? Do all of the proceeds from the funds collected go to the church? Is it a fundraiser, or are?
It's a fundraiser, and we do it for, so like, the funds will go to graduating seniors.
But it's not to the maker of the item.
It's not the person.
People aren't, it's not like a farmer's market where they are collecting money for their own wares.
Correct.
Right,
Being that, so we take that money and do, like, we've given to Beartooth Covers. We've given to Harvest Hope.
right.
We've done it for Funeral Ministries. We've done the Christmas gifts for Cedarwood and the Willows until they are gone, or until they left. And now we do Beartooth Industries and, what's the other one called? Mountain Springs.
Right.
So that, all that money goes back into,
The intent of the resort tax committee, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but was that when we review, because we're coming up on our 5-year review, is that we were going to revisit this, because it wasn't the intent to make it so that nonprofits, when they're doing any type of fundraiser, that they have to collect resort tax.
Yeah.
So, you know, whether it's the bake sale, if all the proceeds of that are going as a fundraiser, you know, when you have your craft fair and the vendors are getting money and they're taking it, you know,
Yeah.
then they have to pay resort tax on that.
Yes.
But the booth space, running the booth where you know, that's your fundraising,
right?
then there's no resort tax on that.
And I know we've paid the license of $50. I don't know how long, because I'm not the treasurer. And
Right,
then last year that was
When
$100. Now they want to do $250 for a one-time 6-hour event. It's costing us 41.666667 cents an hour to do that,
yeah,
when we're trying to raise money to do
Something.
Right.
things in our community.
right,
And the other thing I would like to have is a clear-cut list of, and as the Alter Society, they have paid the resort tax. They've kind of come up with a figure, not knowing exactly what is taxable and what is not. I'd like a clear list. So if you are coming in as a vendor and you are selling bars of fancy soaps,
That's-
and then you sell dish towels, which one is taxable? Both of them? Because we have to let our vendors know that we're going to either start charging them the resort tax, or we're gonna come up with a
yeah, sure.
sheet that says, of these items you sold, say $40.
In,
We will pay that percentage of a resort tax. That's what we have to decide. And I have to be sending this information out to potential vendors by next week.
so get with Danae on that, but basically, short-term vendors, everything is taxable except unprepared food, if I'm not mistaken. So if they're a short-term vendor at a one-time event, they're supposed to be charging resort tax on every item that they sell unless it's unprepared food. Yeah.
Prepared food, yeah.
So,
And then
and then they're supposed to collect it from their sale, give you the money for that, a list of, like, I sold this amount, I sold $1,000, here's my $40.
Right.
And they need to pay that to you, because you're not supposed to cover it for them. You're just making sure it gets paid by, you collect it from each of those vendors and say, how much did you sell? You know, you sold $1,000, where's my $40? Because I've got to turn around and do the report to the city.
And my understanding is the current open to, decision or interpretation that is extended to the mayor extends only to, is this a taxable item or a non-taxable item?
Right.
There is a clause in there that basically says, well, we couldn't think of every item under the sun. And so to me, that's the only thing I would feel comfortable exercising as a mayor. I wouldn't feel, and I stated this at the resort tax meeting, I was uncomfortable saying, if the ordinance says ticket sales for charity events, and what you really meant was all charity events, I don't feel that's within the mayor's
No, and that's
purview
what
to
Tom, when we
make
had
that
our meeting,
interpretation.
Tom said, and Jeremy were both, you know, all of us were, we will address that. It's time for the 5-year review. That will be fixed by next year. Our recommendations will be there, and then council will vote on it.
And then the secondary part of that, now let's come back to the business registration. To me, I should be able to tell why a tier 1 is X dollars and why a tier 2 is X dollars. So,
And
so,
we could add to the business registration, and this would completely be in council's purview to do right away, would be nonprofits, unless it's in their daily course of business, are just the base $100 fee. But if you're the Elks Club and you have a bar and you're selling, you know, every day you're doing that, that's different. You're the $250. But if you're a nonprofit and you just happen to have a bake sale once a year, you're still gonna be under the $100, because that's
Is-
not in your normal course of business. Your normal course of business is a church.
So then, and their normal course of business is a church religion,
Right.
and they don't normally get business registration. So our registration says its intent is to get an inventory of businesses that need to collect and remit
Right.
resort taxes.
The only
They
reason
don't-
why they would get the $100 business registration would be for their craft,
Bake sale.
the craft fair, because they are making money off of those vendors, but they don't want each one of those vendors to come and get a separate business
are
license.
we talking
business
two different
registration.
events, craft fair and fundraiser
Yeah.
are two different events?
Yes,
Okay, so can I get some clarification again?
okay.
So you guys charge booth fees, and then the booth fees go to the fundraiser?
Yes.
But the people who are, paying the booth fee to you guys still collect and get their own money?
Yes,
That sounds like farmer's market to me.
yes, it is.
Okay, I misunderstood it at the beginning.
But like farmer's market and stuff and like yours,
Mhm.
they cover all of those vendors with their business license.
Right,
So if
business
the church,
registration.
that's where the
Yep.
church.
Right, and that's where it would be beneficial to the church to have a business registration for those activities. Because then you could, part of them selling the booth spaces is, you're working under my business registration, so you're gonna pay this much.
Yep.
And I'm gonna take care of, you pay me the resort tax and I'll handle the paperwork and pass it on.
And-
So you don't have to,
And now I
Get the
understand why the
$500
city
bond.
charges for that license fee, because we're gonna have follow-up for resort tax and
Right.
et cetera.
and why they would want to get a business registration.
If it's something that we don't collect resort tax, why is there any registration fee?
Well-
Is there like a $50 version just because we have to have an awareness that you exist? I don't,
That's the $100 one.
is
it's the $100 one.
the right number for that?
Yeah, so contractors, that's our minimum tier, they don't collect or remit resort tax, but we still know that they're in town. We have an inventory of businesses, we require contractors' license, their registration through the state, we still
Yeah.
require those.
But-
Any professional services,
But our
accountant,
current
insurance,
wording
office work.
says whether they collect resort tax or not, and I
Right.
don't think that's right, because they're not correcting resort tax. As
But-
soon as we're putting forth the additional effort,
I mean, there's some additional wording in there, I summarized it, but,
Yeah, I still, there's some that are very minimal on the resort tax that they collect.
yes.
And I think they should stay at the $100 one. There's a lot of retail stores downtown that sell clothing, and every now and then they'll throw in some T-shirts that have, you know, Red Lodge on it, so they have to collect the resort tax. But the majority of their business is not resort tax driven. So they would be still the $100.
So Danae raised an interesting point, because there's a legal term, de minimis, you know, like if this is not a major portion of your, so Sylvan Peak example.
Right. Well,
But the problem becomes, is it a self-reporting thing? How, are you putting an extra burden on, what percentage of your sales is food? What percentage of your sales is taxable or non-taxable, or?
Mhm. Well, the difference is that when you do a bake sale, you don't have to have a health inspector come, you don't have to have the fire department, you know, I mean, it's not, you're not gonna have all of those extra, guidelines and rules that you have to follow. You don't, they probably have a commercial kitchen, but they don't have to have a bake sale.
So that's what tier one is all the stuff that's exempt from health,
Pretty
blah,
much,
blah, blah,
yeah.
blah?
Yeah.
That, to me, ought to be more clear in the wording.
So then, like Circle 17, because again, their stuff is prepared off-site,
Right.
then would they fall into that lower category?
No.
Because
Well,
they
Nikki-
sell alcohol?
But we can't,
We can't, but they sell the beer and wine in,
But-
Right.
so they would be already classified at the.
yeah, they would already be in tier
They sell
3.
hot food.
They sell hot food.
They sell hot
Yeah.
food, yeah, prepared food.
I think the hangup is on prepared food,
Mhm.
and prepared food, the original intent, many years ago, on the Resort Tax Committee, which I was part of, prepared food was food that was heated. It was ready for immediate consumption, but it was heated.
It
And that's
took
how
effort
the
to-
state approaches it with EBT cards, which used to be called food stamps, was if it's heated and ready for immediate consumption, then you can't use an EBT card on that because it's a prepared food. But if you just take the definition of prepared food, like a loaf of bread or a can of corn, 90% of what I sell in the grocery store is prepared food.
Right,
But a corn dog or a chicken wing is something that I couldn't use food stamps to buy,
Right.
because that's convenience or grab-and-go food.
What about a
It's prepared
salad?
For immediate consumption,
Yeah.
by definition.
Prepared
in the
salad.
state
Well, but you said it's heated,
and
so
feds.
what about a salad?
And so
Yeah.
it's not
See,
eligible
that's where
for
we get into the.
Yeah.
that EBT card because it's considered the same as going to a restaurant. And that's where the guideline is at. Now, you can take that same, deli chicken out of the hot case, package it,
In the, down below.
and put it into the refrigerated case. Now it's EBT.
yeah.
Now you can use, because it's now cold.
I think what we
It's-
need to
it's a
do
very-
is, fresh,
I think that's where the.
I think when we did the $250 one, I think our intent, and at least mine was, like, fresh, prepared food on or off-site that's sold in your store. So, you know, if I buy, stuff from Cattail and serve it in my store, then, you know, it's not packaged, but it's fresh, so then I'd be $250 if I wanted to do that. You know, so then if you sell, or Samurai Sue's breakfast burritos, if I start selling those in my store, then I'm $250. I'm, you know, $250 anyway, because I have the ice cream bar now.
So then the other thing is like.
Right,
ice
and so
cream.
then I think we just, in the business registration, we make it so that in the $100 one, all nonprofits are, you know, we just make it the $100. We just include them in there.
Yep.
Unless it's in their normal course of business. You know, every day you have a bake sale, you know, then it would be different, you know,
So
or,
like farmer's market, being a nonprofit, that's their intent
Ten-
behind their business would be $250.
And I guess my 2 cents from the mayor, who has my little stamp,
Yeah.
which you can immediately override, my pushback is gonna be, show me that level of staff effort is different for what they're charging $100 for from what they're charging $250 for.
the
That's the part
difference
that I wanna
is that
see.
if you're selling fresh prepared food, the health inspector can come in and check you anytime. Whether you're,
And
whether
that-
you
that-
have a
that's
commercial
right.
kitchen or not.
If the city plays a role in that, of whether it's coordinating or being aware or tracking, sold.
Right.
That's my only request, is you have to tell me why is there, or why are we charging
But
business
the-
X $250 and business Y $100?
But the health inspector, he may walk through the farmer's market, but he's just, you know, not, you don't have to have a certificate from him to sell your produce at a farmer's market.
So is that the delimiter? If you have to have a health certificate, or a this certificate, or that certificate, you're in the $250 class.
No, I think he just changed the definition of fresh prepared food, that it's fresh prepared food. Like if I buy candy bars from, you know, wherever and sell them in my store, then I'm not going to have, I would be in the $100 market. If I buy jam from Becky's Berries, I'm in the $100. You know, it does that.
Why can you not just say, if you sell foods that don't require a food license? Or 250 is, if you require a food preparation license, then you're in a 250 market. Because your hot case required a food preparation license. Yes, no
No.
purple?
No.
I don't know that we have,
You have to have
it's not
little,
a separate license.
no, there's no license for it, that's just it.
You know, I mean, the county health department would come through and inspect.
And now you're,
area.
is it the county or is it the city?
The county health department.
The
But we
city
get the copy of the,
We require that they
So-
have it before we give them a license.
And we track it and that takes
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And it's more about too, that fresh prepared food is always taxed with resort tax.
So
So
if
that
it's resort tax, then the city's gonna be involved.
Right, and the fresh prepared food, I just think that's kind of, will pick up the ones that we really had wanted to be in the $250 one, the convenience stores, the restaurants, the coffee shops, grocery store, you know, all of those.
I'm just confused a little bit by, let's just take Samurai Sue.
Uh-huh,
She sells us bread. We sell in our bakery department,
right,
that there's absolutely no difference between the bread she sells us and the bread that Fran sells us.
and I wasn't
So
necessarily,
how is
that's
hers
prepackaged.
more fresh, but her.
but the difference, I'm talking about like her breakfast burritos.
is-
and the
no packaging
sandwiches.
involved,
No, they're hot, they're made fresh that day, and they're sold that day.
and they're sold hot,
They're sold hot.
so the heat.
Well, no, they come and put them in a refrigerator and I go buy it from the store and then stick it in the microwave.
Hand scooped ice cream.
Not at Circle 17, they're in a heated
That,
case,
they would want to include.
and they're sold hot. She brings them in every morning.
I guess, you know, that's a good question, ice cream. Ice cream shop versus ice cream in the frozen section at the grocery store.
You're not serving
But
it.
ice cream is being served for immediate consumption.
Right.
And the ice cream at the grocery store,
You take home and put in the freezer.
Prepackaged.
So it'd be fresh prepared food for immediate consumption. Would be, what would be under the $250 one. I don't know, what do you
Do you wanna
think?
hear what AI says?
Okay?
Processed by manufacturer or seller so that it's ready to eat with little or no additional preparation. It can include foods that are heated, combined, or sold with utensils. So, foods that are sold hot or heated by the seller, such as pizza, hamburgers, and hot dogs. Combined foods that are made by mixing or combining two or more ingredients, such as sandwiches, salad bars, and ice cream cones. Foods sold with utensils provided by the seller, such as plates, forks, spoons, and napkins.
That's kind of what I did some research and some of them.
Yeah.
Very specific to being able to use utensils or, you know, more than one.
Right.
Type of a thing, but.
So when you're done with this revisit, you need to make sure that it matches your intent. We didn't mean to make the Finnish ladies or the church ladies or the Girl Scouts get a bigger license.
Yeah. And,
But is it safe to let her know that the $100 one is fine for now until we get this resolved?
or do we change the ordinance and?
Does the current ordinance allow what's an escalation, what's the word I'm looking for when you,
Review?
Don't agree with what it's
yeah,
saying.
you disagree, an appeal? Because if it does, then they could come now and say, yes, we're granting it because this is
I
the
think
direction
so.
we're going. Otherwise, I think they're stuck with the current rules until the rules change.
And we can change those rules, but we also need to keep in mind that
We paid this year,
we need to refund businesses that, like Rocky Mountain Market, Sylvan Peak, the Candy Emporium, those kind of businesses need to be refunded money.
do we know how many of those there would be?
Not very many.
So here's what I'm hearing, because I like,
They do, so that wouldn't be candy and wine, 'cause they-
so now what I'm hearing is
Yeah, they make fun
that
of
we
that.
don't have an appeals. I'm hearing you pay your $250, but we're initiating a process where our intent is to go back and refund businesses. How many of those are we talking about? And how messy is that?
There shouldn't be that many.
Like, I know the Harley store, they sell ice cream bars now, Sylvan Peak, Rocky Mountain Market. I don't know, I have to go through them by hand and figure out.
So you can sell a frozen ice cream bar that's wrapped, but you can't scoop it or pour it out of a machine.
Single serve, similar with the resort tax on, soda.
Mhm.
Single serve sodas are resort taxable. 12 packs.
Not.
12 packs are not resort tax
Okay.
because it's designed, the packaging is designed to take it home and consume it at a later date.
Kathy, does that approach work for you guys? If the current rules state that you're a $250, but if we approach this from a standpoint of we're gonna correct it and basically have to retroactively make it fit?
I do, I just think that if any nonprofit type is required to get a business or registration, that they're just in the $100 one, unless,
But your rules don't say that right now.
I know, I'm just
Okay.
saying, but I think we, not only this prepared food thing, but I do wanna add that for the nonprofits, that unless it's in their normal course of business, they would qualify under the $100, unless the food serving is part of their normal course of business. Where there's, or selling. Who don't wanna put the food bank in there.
Lonnie, where's the hole in that theory?
Oh my God.
My whole is like the farmer's market does like a thing in December,
Mhm.
like similar to.
Right, they do.
So, and then they only do the food service in the summer, would they still be considered that or not?
They would
Because
be
they're
a,
not operating all year round.
they're not, yeah, they're a nonprofit, so farmer's market a nonprofit?
Yes, they're a nonprofit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, our purpose was not to penalize people for having a fundraiser.
Yeah.
I mean, and the resort tax committee was very adamant that that was not the purpose of, when we did this. We just weren't broad-minded enough at that time to not include other things besides just selling tickets.
I think it's a
So,
really good idea, like the Arts Guild, we just recently ran into an issue with them too. They hold a fundraiser event.
Right.
It's really important to their business.
Yes.
And, there was a question on whether they should be collecting resort tax on it or not.
well, they have to, they don't collect it on the sale of their booth spaces, but the people at that craft fair have to be collecting resort tax.
Are you talking
because-
about the standard art thing that's Memorial Day-ish?
Labor Day.
Labor Day-ish?
Yeah, it's.
Are you talking about a different event?
It's a different event.
It's a different event.
Oh, a
She's
different
not talking
event,
about
okay.
their farmer's market equivalent.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not that equivalent. It's some fundraiser event where they like auction off art or something for a fundraiser for the Arts Guild.
Okay, yeah,
So-
because typically when you have an auction for a fundraiser, you are not going to be collecting resort tax on top of what that person bid.
Yeah, and
Okay,
that's what the
so-
Yellowstone is
So
for.
as we're running out of time, just to make clear that I understand from an administrative standpoint, we are bound to do what's on the books right now. We don't
Unfortunately, yeah.
have that.
Yeah.
So but the intent of this standing committee is to bring this up to council and present it, and as we make those changes,
Yes,
then retroactively reimburse some businesses to take them back to what the intent was that we just didn't catch the first time it went through.
correct.
Kathy,
And
how does-
Renee, I would be
oh.
happy to work on that with you.
Okay.
Um,
And could we
and-
just not group all the nonprofits? Because even though, like,
well,
in the farmer's market, if they're a nonprofit, like, isn't the intent
for the money to go to the nonprofit.
Right,
The
so
Red
they
Lodge
would,
Foundation.
they would have, if they wanna use their business registration license for all of those vendors there, then it's in their best interest to have a business registration. So if a nonprofit wishes to be a licensed business in Red Lodge, they would be the $100, unless they are, you know, throughout their normal course of business, need to be in the 250. I mean, the only one that's like that is the Elks, because they have a bar.
The only one that's like that that's coming to mind right at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
How many
yeah, but-
businesses are registered in Red Lodge, roughly?
About 700 regular and about almost 300 short-term rent, or 200
Yeah.
short-term rentals.
Okay, that's more than I thought.
And like I said, for me, the test is, can you tie what you're charging to the administrative overhead to do it?
Mhm. Well,
And the things
yeah.
that licensing, resort tax, you know, short-term is licensing, any of those other agencies we
I-
have to coordinate with?
Because a normal nonprofit does not have to have a business registration, because they're not, correct? Because they're not a business.
A nonprofit does, it
Okay.
states it in the business registration.
Okay.
It specifically calls out nonprofits that they still need one.
If they're doing business in the city limits.
Yep.
And that's the problem with the Finnish ladies or the church ladies and their bake sale.
I mean, well, and do we wanna just make them exempt unless they need unless they actually are, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a question, I don't know, you know.
Like Buses of Yellowstone is another one, they
But
get
they-
business registration.
yeah.
But they don't really conduct business.
Well, they sell bus rides and stuff like that too.
So
Do they
only
jump to
do that as a-
250 because they give them an ice cream bar now?
Right, I know.
They came in and told me, like, the only time that they sell those tickets.
It's a
for
fundraiser, right, yeah, it's
So
a
then
fundraiser.
is that our intent to exempt that too, and then, it's nice to have an inventory of businesses or
Mhm.
needs that
Well, if
will
they
need
have
to
a-
have resort tax
Yeah, I mean,
collection.
especially if they have a brick and mortar,
Yeah.
you know, then, I don't know. That's another question for, I guess, another,
So
To
I'm
talk
trying to,
about.
I'm trying to wrap up so the members of the
Yeah.
public that came today. Is what I'm hearing is, for now, they're gonna pay it, but the anticipation is that they're gonna get a refund down the road.
yes.
Kathy, does that logic make sense about why we're there and does it work?
Yeah, one of my questions though is, okay, what about the community church when they do the harvest dinner and Shrove Tuesday? Are they having to get a business license? Because my understanding is they're not.
They've never registered.
Mm.
Are they required to pay per plate,
Or is it by donation?
or is it by donation?
No, I think it's by plate.
Yeah. But that's a fundraiser as well.
Mm-hmm. But they're not having to buy $100 license.
So,
And I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble, but.
No, but that's just it. I mean,
I'm
that's what
just-
I was, like,
you know, if
a lot
you're
of
requiring
nonprofits.
us to pay,
Mhm.
in the end, the $100, because we do the bistro and the bake sale, why is that different than the community church?
It's not.
I think,
So-
what I'm hearing, the difference is, you're hosting an event that you sell booth space for, and and those booths have to collect the resort tax. The church, the other church is not hosting that type of an event, it is just like a bake sale, except that it's Thanksgiving dinner.
And they're not collecting the resort tax. Now, except our resort tax currently says tickets. So if they have tickets for their dinner, they fall under the current resort tax
So
rules.
there's,
And so that,
they can consider that a plate fee as a ticket. To me, that falls in
Mhm.
line a little bit more. But for you, you are selling booth fees,
space.
which is, the space, which is your fundraiser, that's your money, and I totally understand that.
Okay.
But those vendors are should be collecting resort tax because they're not the fundraiser. They are making a profit off of what they're selling.
Correct.
So that to me is the clear difference.
And you should be able to charge a higher booth fee because they are not having to go get a business registration. They're not having to go pay the $500 bond for the resort tax.
And staff has a higher level of effort because we are processing resort tax.
Right, But
But you
staff
want-
also likes it when
They
you
are.
are the one responsible for it and not the 50 vendors selling it.
Extremely.
Right.
So, but
Yeah.
because you're responsible, you're letting them use basically your business registration, you're collecting, you know, they've collected, but you handle all the paperwork to pay it. I mean, that's part of their booth fee. So you need,
Because it takes them effort.
yeah, I mean, so you can charge more because, and let them know that. It's like, you know.
Okay, so then being new to this on the resort tax side, what do we need to do? I mean, you know, we have 39 tables sold, basically. I need to come up with some sort of a form that says table number, you know, 26.
I have kind of a form, I mean, basically all you need to do is just a spreadsheet that says total sales times .04, this is what, you know, please pay this at the end. And, we can give you something from the resort tax on short-term vendors, where basically it says everything is taxable unless it's fresh food, you know, unprepared food.
Just so you know, that math isn't right that you just said. You don't go 4% up or 4% down, there's a difference in how you do it.
It's, well, here's your sales times .04, this is what you owe me.
And you.
But they'd have to, that's if you're gonna collect it on top of that, otherwise you divide it by
They just need
100
to,
and times it by .04 to get to the,
I know,
Yeah, you could have them do that.
they need to be collecting it on their sale and stuff. The other ways,
You can give them each one of those, make them fill them out for you.
Yeah.
And then you use that and make one form off of it.
yeah,
And then we just have to give you a check for that amount.
Mhm.
We don't have to turn any paperwork into you.
nope.
Okay.
No, and I would highly encourage your vendors to charge the resort tax. Otherwise, I mean, they can, as Dave said, do backwards math on it. But,
Yeah, the intent behind resort tax is for it to go to the people on the end of it.
that are
not
buying
to take
it,
from the profit of the business.
right. And every point of sale system out there, like if you have a little Clover device, whatever, it will,
You can add it on.
you can add on the tax and it'll, people are, after seeing how easy it is to put in your point of sale system, you know, and most people, I guess some people at those probably will just be cash basis, but a lot of people anymore, if they've been in that craft fair vendor business, will have it on their phone so they can take credit card payments and debit card payments and.
I was at farmer's market, I bought a pie, it was $11. I handed her 20, she gave me 5 and said it's 15 with resort tax, and I thought, man, what? I haven't been there again.
Wow.
Said, how did you get $4 on 11?
Did you know that in our ordinance, it says that if you collect resort tax, whether it was due or not, you still have to pay it to the city?
Yeah.
Enjoy
your pie.
I bit my tongue, and it wasn't as good as the place I normally get my pies anyway, so it was. But I have not been back to that booth since, and I offer just public feedback, because that's all I was at that time was public, is I'd recommend consistency among your vendors, because that was not a good customer experience.
Right,
That's
And-
the hard thing about umbrellaing, is that we, in the office, don't
We
have
don't
as
care,
much
yeah.
control and,
Yeah.
and one-on-one with the businesses.
Okay.
And we've kind of consistently.
But you probably don't wanna
farmers
deal with
market.
39 vendors.
49, no.
39 tables.
Yep, we
I know.
already deal with it.
But if you need help with it, Kathy, I do it all the time at the market too, so I can
So my
help you too.
understanding is we will write a check for $250 to the city. So I know we already have a bill for the $100.
When is your,
October.
so I feel, my opinion, you don't need to pay that until we get closer to October, because that's when you're gonna be conducting your business.
Correct.
Yeah,
Maybe by October, we will have this ordinance fixed, so you hold off on paying.
Okay.
and
Don't
you
buy a
won't-
business license yet, because you don't need it until
You don't need it.
October.
We don't need it till
And
October.
then if we can't get this fixed,
Not a
then you'll pay the $250, but in an
We
effort
will.
to keep it clean and not have to reimburse you, let's wait, try and get this cleaned up. You don't need it until October, I think we'll have it done by then, right?
Mhm.
That's the
Because it's
this
still gonna
wording
be an
change.
amendment to that
Yep.
resolution.
Well,
Yeah.
it's an ordinance, so it's still gonna
Well,
take 2 readings plus
we
30 days.
could do it two ways, we could just
Oh, no,
do-
because licenses is a
The
resolution.
registration was just a resolution.
Registration.
Yep.
We can, yes, add that.
Don't make this harder than it is.
So I'm understanding, you're all in agreement that this is going to be changed,
Yes,
so that we don't have.
You have- you have-
Hold on.
There's three.
three. We have
There's 3 out of 6 that agree, but I think the inclination is that council is gonna be persuaded by their discussion.
I don't think anybody meant to charge a bake sale a $250 business registration. That was never the intent of
Well,
it.
because we're a nonprofit and it's a fundraiser for doing
Right.
all these other things in
Yeah.
our community.
Right, correct.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to think of those things when we're in the mix of trying to think of everything else,
know.
and
It-
these things will,
It
Come
started
from-
honestly because the state said that we could not charge a fee, an extra fee, just because a business sold alcohol.
Or anything else that the state licensed.
Yes, so we had to make categories instead of naming out, you're selling alcohol, you have to pay this, you're selling marijuana, you have to pay this, you're selling, you know? So we completely changed it, and,
restaurants serve food, therefore they're more expensive, which encompass your food items.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So I pay the same with my little tea bar and ice cream as any tavern or restaurant in town.
Brothers Pizza Company.
Right. So, you know, it did pick up those little, like the coffee shops and stuff like that don't sell alcohol now pay the same. But we didn't it was never our intent to do that.
I think
Because
that's
we'd
part
never
of
have
it.
any fundraisers in town again.
Well, that's the thing, I mean, because like I
Yeah.
said to the ladies, maybe we just quit doing the craft fair. I mean, this is our 27th year of craft fair.
People love that craft fair.
I know
We'll
they
have
do.
pitchforks out in front of
Yeah.
City Hall. Like,
Well,
oh.
thanks for taking the time to
Thank
come
you.
today and, help us all understand how it works in the
Yeah.
real world and.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, $100 is like almost nothing,
Yeah.
250 for a
That's like,
$6
can all
event.
be.
Wait, nothing times nothing is, or nothing times 2.5 is still nothing.
Almost nothing. Okay,
All
all
right,
right.
thank you.
Anything else from anyone? And maybe Dave can give us an update on the budget really quick before we get out here. if that's
We do,
okay?
so the budget is online.
Okay,
Lonnie is out this week, so what's happening is I'm working on my presentation with dummy numbers in the back, and then our goal is to add real numbers into it next week, so.
Where is that online?
You can get to it 2 or 3 different ways. You can go to resources, you can go to the mayor's page.
part of it.
I think I've-
Yeah, the
If,
same one.
if you go to the mayor's
there
page, there's a
before.
budget link, and then it'll take you to, but it's under resources budget, where you can see all the history of it.
Or underneath.
And we have it under news that points to it as well. So it's basically, it's under resources budget, but we've given you 2 different additional doors into the room.
And David, still the
And-
the July 9th version?
Yes,
Okay, and we don't have anybody presenting tonight?
we do not have anybody presenting tonight, and the meeting that the item that we thought was gonna go 4 hours is now gonna take a
That's the
short
withdrawal?
discussion, yeah.
Okay,
So that motion will basically require, a motion to table. Because it's publicly noticed, it has to be on our agenda, is what we've been advised from a legal perspective.
Mhm.
So I'll say, we have a letter of withdrawal, I'll entertain a motion to table. Somebody will say, I move to table, somebody else will second, I will say discussion. Discussion could still take a while, whether that's discussion on the table or discussion amongst who shows up. I have tried to disseminate that information to the homeowners association so that we don't have double the load capacity in the room. But then when that conversation is done, we'll have a vote. I can't anticipate it going anywhere than yes, that we're tabling it. And then basically at that point it's dead until they submit it the next time. And I will have a little bit more of a conversation and comment, tonight that I have prepared. That was what I shared.
Yeah,
with
I
you.
guess I'm just kind of confused if they withdrew the application, why it's even coming.
Because it's publicly noticed, it
Publicly
has to.
noticed, yeah.
Okay.
So I had an email from one of the people who live up there,
Okay.
wondering if they should attend tonight,
And-
and I'm not sure what to tell them.
And I have several, my answer was, the public is always invited, welcome and encouraged to attend. However, I can assure you that the only possible action that will result is that the motion will be tabled. So if they want to come and comment, they're welcome to do so, but legally, there will be no action other than tabled. Because we published that on the agenda that has been withdrawn and we have the letter of withdrawal in there,
Okay.
action will not take place tonight on it.
Okay. Thank you.
So somebody could say, well, I only table it for a week, or I table it for 2 weeks, but there will be no action on it tonight, other than tabling it.
I guess I thought that they had withdrawn it before our agenda went out, but I was mistaken.
That, they did, but not enough that, we were planning the agenda based on that was gonna be there. So it came in Thursday. By the time we got it, it was fairly late on Thursday. But it was still on the agenda. It has to be on the agenda because it was publicly noticed. That was a month ago in the newspaper.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I was.
No, it was
I'm
publicly
sorry.
noticed in the
I was
newspaper a
like,
month
where was it
ago.
publicly, I thought it was publicly noticed on our agenda.
No,
Okay,
no, no, it's
thank you.
publicly noticed in the
That was the
newspaper.
clarifying part I
Sorry.
needed. Thank you.
Okay.
It's like, we can pull it off the agenda, what do you mean? Like-
No, it was in the newspaper a month
Okay.
ago. And I will clarify that tonight. Thank you.
Yes. Danae, I will have way more time as soon as car show is over,
Did you guys adjourn?
this week, and I
You're
will,
not adjourned yet. Do you wanna adjourn?
we can definitely, oh, I'm sorry, we're adjourned. Yes, sorry. And we can get together.
Was that a motion
And
or?
if you wanna,
I'll second that.
okay,
That
yeah.
always makes
We're out of
sense.
time.